Hello there. Today we are going to be making Old Clock ice cream pie out of the Nancy Drew cookbook. So to go along with this, I did read Nancy Drew and the Secret of the Old Clock. The version that I read was published in 1987, though the original was published in 1930. And then I also read one that had its artwork updated in 2014. So you might notice that the book cover is a little less traditional than some of the ones that you may have seen before. So first steps, we need 1 quart of vanilla ice cream, half a cup of frozen strawberries or raspberries, and 24 cream-filled cookies. So we have all of that prepared. And then before we began, I went ahead and let the ice cream sit out to soften. And right now, there is a bit of a run on frozen fruit at the grocery store, so we are going to settle for fresh fruit. Oh, darn. So first thing we need to do is mix together the ice cream and the strawberries. So I'm using Friendly's brand vanilla bean ice cream just because that's our household favorite. As you can see, it is quite soft and creamy at this point. It's got some runniness even around the sides, which I think will be excellent for our purposes. So we're going to use 2/3 of this, and I'm going to have to just kind of estimate as I pour this out. Oh, this is perfect. So we want 2/3 of the container, 1 quart. Pull the soft parts off first, make it easy on ourselves because we are going to have to stir this momentarily. I feel like we're essentially making our own strawberry flavored ice cream here. However, it will have some nice big chunks of strawberries in it when we're done. So that might be preferable to some of the store-bought ice creams that have all of the strawberry pureed inside of it. But my guess would be that if you wanted to use strawberry ice cream in place of the mixed together vanilla and strawberry, that would work just fine. So we're going to go ahead and set this aside for now. And then it says that we only need about a half a cup of strawberries. I think I want more than that. I like a really fruity flavor that goes with my ice cream there. So we're going to go ahead. I think I'm just going to chop up. We have about, what is this, a pint? We've got like a pint of strawberries. We ate a few of them for dessert the other night, but I think I might go ahead and just chop up a few of those. Because the strawberries that are frozen tend to be a little softer, I'm going to mince these into, or chop rather, these into fairly small chunks to make it easier. And hopefully they'll mix in nicely. All right, so I cut up my strawberries and I washed these before I started slicing. So what I'm going to do next is put all of the strawberries in a small bowl, and then I have just a potato masher here. I'm just going to press these firmly a few times to hopefully get some of the juices out so that they will nicely intermingle with the vanilla ice cream. Try and keep them all in the bowl. I failed. Edit that out. Okay, maybe use a slightly larger bowl than this, or use the actually recommended amount of strawberries, 1/2 cup, as opposed to what is clearly closer to 1.5 cups to 2 cups here. So I'm starting to see a little bit of juice at the bottom, but we aren't in peak strawberry season right now, so I'm not sure how much juice I'm actually going to get out of these. I think this would be one to either use the actually frozen strawberries, or if you want to use fresh, maybe do it in the middle of summer, which would be an excellent time to serve strawberry ice cream pie. Oh, there we go. We're getting a little bit. You could also cut these up and then pour a little bit of sugar over the top to help pull the juices out. Maybe let them sit for a few hours or overnight before you attempt this. But I didn't want to do that just because I feel like there is going to be enough sugar in this from the natural sweetness of the strawberries and the ice cream itself. So I think I've got these fairly well mashed now. Now the next thing we need to do is mix our strawberries in with the ice cream. And I didn't think this through. I have my ice cream scoop as my stirring implement here. So we'll see how adequately I can mix this together. And I think luckily I let those sit long enough that they are intermingling quite nicely. And even some of those strawberry juices, I can see them smearing down the sides as they mix with the ice cream. So I would just give that a few stirs until it's mixed pretty thoroughly. And honestly, looking at the ratios here, I'm really glad that I used as many strawberries as I did. I think that half a cup would have been far too little for a full quart of ice cream, unless you just want that strawberry flavor as kind of an afterthought, which I don't. So this looks great. It's kind of melty, but still a little thicker in the middle, closer to milkshake consistency now. So I'm going to set that aside, and we need to start on our chocolate cookies next. So I have Oreos. It just says cream-filled chocolate cookies. Nowadays, it's probably mostly Oreos. You could get off-brand. You could get Hydrox cookies, whatever works for you. I have double stuffed, unfortunately. My partner did the grocery shopping, and he prefers double stuffed. So who am I to complain, because I didn't have to go to the grocery store. So we need 24 of these. So let's see, we've got 2, 22, 23, and one more, 24. Perfect. So what I'm going to do, we're going to make our crust out of these cookies. So we're going to crush these. I've tried soup cans before, and what I find is I actually mangle the soup can in the process. Kind of trying it by hand, it's a little noisy, but it actually does seem to do the job pretty well. I think you'll end up with bigger chunks that way, rather than like the small crumbs that make up kind of the nice cookie crust consistency. So I'll do the majority of it by hand, and then maybe I'll grab the potato masher and try and make it a bit more crummy. I can't say I would recommend doing this with the double stuffed Oreos. The first thing I'm noticing is that already the bag seems to be coated with cream, and it is kind of sticking the larger cookie pieces to it. So I don't know that we're going to get that nice crumbly crust that you would hope for, just because of the type of Oreos that we have. I think it would be fun to experiment with this. In my pantry right now, I have peanut butter Oreos. I think peanut butter and strawberry would go nicely together. Some of the more outside the box Oreo flavors, you could try like a birthday cake that has a heavy vanilla flavor. I know sometimes they'll do fun like holiday flavors. So I would get creative with this, and I feel like you could mix any type of fruit with the ice cream and, you know, make it to your choice. So like maybe some frozen blueberries, frozen peaches could be really good. Anything like that. If you did I know what you should do. The frozen peaches, mix it in with the ice cream, and then they have these amazing caramel coconut Oreos. I bet if you used those as the crust with the frozen peaches in the ice cream, that would be just fantastic. I might have to follow up and try that one if I can get some frozen peaches. Or maybe canned peaches would work. Okay, so actually this seemed to work out okay. Again, it seems to be more cream than Oreo, which is not my preference. But we're able to kind of mash that up. I used a freezer safe bag. I would definitely recommend that. This seems to be sturdier than the other types of Ziploc bags that I've used in the past. where you start to get kind of a rip in the bag as you mash. And I have not run into that issue with this one, so I would definitely recommend the freezer ones. All right, so we have a pretty, I don't know if I want to reach my hand into this. So we have a crust now. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to take a stick of butter. It's cold right out of the fridge. I don't want too much fat in this just because it's already got lots of fat built into the cream from the Oreos and the ice cream. So we'll just grease it enough that after the crust comes out, it's not going to stick to the pan and mangle the shape of each piece of pie. All right, so we've got that. And then the next thing we're going to do is dump the Oreos into the pie pan. And I don't think I'm going to try to get all that extra cream that's at the bottom. I'm more interested in the cookie crust, or the cookie crumbles, rather. All right, so this doesn't appear to make a very thick crust. Now, again, I might be a little bit off just because I did use double stuffed cookies, so I'm not sure what sort of impact that will have. And then I'm just going to firmly press these into the bottom. Oh, this is thicker than I thought. I think the issue that you might run into is that it does get tough to kind of work this up the side of the pan. Now, I don't bake with crumb crusts enough to be able to say for sure. I know there's graham cracker crust. I think there's chocolate graham cracker crust or cookie crust that you can buy. So this could be really, really fast and easy if you just bought one of those chocolate cookie crusts, poured some strawberry ice cream in here, and then maybe topped it with a few sliced strawberries for garnish. I could see that being a really fast and easy way to put something together. Now, I did predict that I was going to run into this. I do have larger chunks of cookies than I would care for, so pushing it up the side is a little challenging, and then I'm also running into a few gaps at the bottom, so I'm having to kind of crumble with my fingers as I go and redistribute the cookies. They are sticking together pretty nicely with that cream, so I don't know, maybe a little bit of a drawback using the double stuffed, but I think it'll balance itself out. So I've got it more or less structured the way I think it should be. It's not perfect, but I don't know, I'd eat it. Then the next thing we're going to do, it says to put the crust in the oven at 350 degrees for 8 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead, put that in the oven that I've already preheated, and then we are going to let it cool, then put the ice cream mixture that we made inside and kind of make it look pretty. While we bake this, I am going to put the ice cream mixture into the freezer. I don't want to leave it in there very long because I still want it to be soft and malleable to be able to smooth the shape of the pie. But it is very liquidy at this point, and I don't want it to lose its consistency and get, you know, kind of that refrozen crystallized ice cream flavor. So this is going to go in the oven. We'll come right back as soon as that's done. So in The Secret of the Old Clock, there wasn't mention of ice cream really, but there was mention of a cake being baked in the book. So I thought that was kind of funny because in the last one that I did, so in The Secret of Shadow Ranch, on the game, they actually baked a cake, but there was no mention of beans that were then put into the cookbook. But here in this one, there is a direct mention of a cake, but we're doing ice cream pie, which I feel like is closer than beans and cake and ice cream pie. So I wanted to just briefly read the portion of the chapter where the cake is baked. Nancy has just met two sisters who were struggling to keep their farm open and running because they were promised some money by Mr. Crowley after he died, but there was no mention of them in the will that was found. So Nancy goes on a quest to figure out if there was a later will, and that general theme of finding the will to get the money for others continues in the Nancy Drew game that's based on this book too. Nancy, I want you to meet my sister. She's the mainstay of our family of two. Grace Hoover cordially acknowledged the introduction and greeted Nancy with a warm smile. Nancy judged her to be at least 4 years older than Allison. Her face was rather serious, and it was evident from her manners that responsibility had fallen on her shoulders at an early age. Nancy was attracted to both girls and responded to their friendly welcome. She put on a robe which Allison brought her, and Grace hung her wet clothes near the range. "This is fun," she said to the sisters. "I don't know what I would have done without you girls." "It's great for us," Allison spoke up. "We don't have much company. To tell you the truth, we can't afford it." Grace stepped to the stove, removed a golden brown cake from the oven, and set it on the table to cool. "But today we're not talking about money. It's Allison's birthday, and this is a birthday cake. Nancy, if you're not in too much of a hurry, I wish you'd join us in a little celebration." "Why, I'd love to," Nancy said. "Grace's cakes are yummy," Allison declared. "I'm not much of a cook myself. My department is taking care of the barn and the chickens." Meanwhile, the cake had cooled, and Grace started to spread chocolate frosting. "Suppose you two go into the living room and wait," she suggested. "I'll bring in the cake and tea." From just beyond the doorway suddenly came the strains of "Happy Birthday to You, Happy Birth." By this time Nancy had joined in. She and Grace finished, "Day to you, happy birthday, dear Allison, happy birthday to you." Grace set the cake with 18 lighted candles on the table. She and Nancy sang the second verse with the words, "May you have many more." Tears stood in Allison's eyes. When the song ended, she grasped her sister in a tremendous hug. Then she gave Nancy one. This is the nicest birthday I've had in years," she quavered. "And it's one of the most enjoyable I've ever attended," Nancy said sincerely. Just pulled my crust and my ice cream out. The crust baked for 8 minutes, and then I left it on the stovetop to cool, and then I decided to speed up the process. So I popped that in the fridge for about 15, 16 minutes. The ice cream mixture I put in the freezer, and I kind of stuffed my finger in there to make sure it wasn't totally frozen solid, and it caved really easily under my touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the ice cream mixture just a quick stir. This bowl is freezing. And, oh, it looks like it's still fairly melty on the inside. So it really started to freeze along the edges of the bowl the most. So I think we'll be able, I'm using a rubber spatula here to pull it up from the bowl. I think we should be able to spread this in the crust without too much trouble. I'll kind of mix that in so the hardened parts are mixed in with the more softened parts, and hopefully that'll give us a more thorough freeze once it solidifies into its final form as a strawberry ice cream pie. So it seems like baking this crust didn't do a whole lot for it. I actually think it would have been better to use just chocolate cookies crushed up without the cream, mixed in with some butter to do more of a traditional cookie crust. In this case, there's big chunks. I think this is going to fall apart as soon as I cut into it, but we're going with it. So we're just going to pour the ice cream strawberry mixture over the top here. I think this might be heaped on just a little bit because the Oreos did not flatten completely into the pie pan. But I think with having set up the ice cream a little bit, that should work out just fine when I put it in the freezer. If I had left this in a more liquidy state, though, I think it could be challenging to create the pie in the crust. It would go all over, I think. I think it would even like fill in the cookie. So I'm going to go just maybe a little bit. I don't want to completely cover the edges here. I want to leave them exposed so it's got more of a traditional pie feel to it. There we go. And then smooth out the top. Now, Nancy suggests that to add a bit of a creative flair, you could stencil a clock on top of this, set to the hour that you intend to serve the pie. So we are going to take Nancy's advice, and I have created a clock stencil that I'm going to try to neatly lay on top of this pie here without making it too messy. And I have it set to maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, not sure. All right, now it's not a perfect circle. I traced a larger bowl and then a smaller bowl in the inside. And then I have some chocolate flavored sprinkles from the Dollar Tree here that we're going to try to line. I have a feeling these are going to get everywhere. Try and keep them in lines. Get the clock hands. You know, I'm not usually the crafty one. That is more my sister's expertise.
Oh, we're pulling it off. Oh my gosh, it worked. It sort of looks like a clock. Kinda. I don't have quite the straight edges that I had hoped I would, but it's a clock.
Okay, this is where things get a little bonkers because I was not satisfied to just have clock hands. Oh, I did it sideways. Okay, so it might actually be 11:50 on this clock. So I went ahead and I very delicately tried to cut numbers out of strawberries.
So I am going to place just a 12 at the top of the clock here, and then a 6 down at the bottom. Please do not let me mislead you. Making a 6 out of a strawberry was not the easiest thing that I've ever done. It's not perfect, but I found out if you bend a strawberry, it does have a little give. And then I wanted to take some chocolate chips and just place those around the clock like the other time markers.
And then a lovely little strawberry garnish up at the top there. So nobody is surprised when it is strawberry ice cream with chocolate crust. Okay, so I let the pie sit up for, I would say, just over an hour all told. And how stinking cute is this? I love it. So I am going to go ahead and use my pie slicer here. I think I want this 6. I feel very proud of having made a 6 out of strawberries. Can't say that's a thing I've done before. And it might still be a little soft in the middle, but it seems to be thick enough that it's going to hold its shape fairly well. I'm a little nervous to see how the crust comes out. So I'm going to be a little gentle when I come to scooping that. And it does feel very soft. So I would say if you're going to bring this to a party or serve this, I would maybe let it set up for more than an hour. I'd say 2 hours. And honestly, it probably wouldn't hurt to do overnight. So, see, oh gosh, I got a very big piece. I'm not sure if I'll be able to eat all this. Oh, look at that. It holds its shape really nicely. I'm excited. I've got some cookie crumbs mixed in the bottom here. And again, I am having some problems with the chunks of cookie where those don't seem to be staying together all that well. I think they kind of crumbled a bit. So let's try this out and see how it is. I'm so excited. This is such a cute little piece. Okay, so the frozen strawberries are quite frozen now, it seems like. So let's get a bite with everything. So I've got strawberry ice cream and crust in this one. Okay, interesting. So the flavor itself is really good. The chocolate is a little overpowering on the strawberry, and I kind of have like the goosebumps because those strawberries froze really hard. So what I'm thinking I would do is either use the frozen strawberries as instructed, or I would puree the strawberries, put them through a food processor so that the chunks aren't so big with that. Let me try a bite with just the ice cream to see if something without a big chunk of strawberry still gets that strawberry flavor. There is like an aftertaste of strawberry, but I do get primarily vanilla in this. So that strawberry is focused predominantly where the chunks are. So again, I do think that pureeing the strawberry before you mix this all together would be a better approach. That being said, I'm not mad about this at all. I am happy to continue eating our secret of the old clock ice cream pie. So I'm going to say goodbye and finish up my pie. So toodaloo, Nancy Drew. Until next time.